Hello, this is SJ Talks to Life coming back at you with another video. If you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button, please and thank you. If you're on your phone, if you're looking at me on your phone, it's that button that's right down there. It should be a little thing that says subscribe. I believe you can hit that. Thank you, please and thank you. I was looking at a TikTok of... If you hear a little noise, that's my air conditioner going, because we're having another heat wave up here in Michigan, and I cannot sit in this car without the air conditioning. There's not enough breeze coming in from outside so that's, if you hear that, that's the air conditioner. Anyway, anywho, I was looking at TikTok, TikTok videos, and then some people put them on YouTube. About this young lady was saying that it was quite a few. It was this one video, actually one YouTube video that I watched, and it was quite a few TikToks together. I was going to screenshot it, but I decided not to. But it was quite a few TikToks together where they were talking about, black women were talking about being in relationships with racist white men. And it was the first one said, was just giving black women a disclaimer, black women a warning, saying, be careful when you're dating these white guys. Basically, she was telling her experience, and it was some other ones that they showed, other black women that they showed that were telling their experiences of being in relationships with white men that are racist. And I wanted to talk about that because black women are being highly encouraged right now to date outside. We're being encouraged to, I'll say we because I'm a black woman, we're being encouraged to expand our options or divest. You know, there's a whole divestment community here on YouTube. Now, there's a difference between, I've explained it in another video, there's a difference between divestment and expanding, a black woman divesting versus a black woman expanding her options. The difference is, this is the difference. Divestment means a black woman that is divesting is a black woman that she'll date any other race of man but a black man. She will not date a black man. She's excluded black men out of her dating pool altogether. She's open to dating other races of men, but she's excluded black men for whatever reason, whatever, you know, each I can't speak for them, but when you look at some of their content, you'll get a good idea as to why they come to that decision. Different ones, a lot, you know, I'm not going to really go into, some of them are, you know, had bad experiences with black men, and they have quite a few bad experiences with black men. Some of them are very upset that black men, you know, have been bashing us on social media. So it's kind of a tit for tat type thing. Some of them, you know, some of them are frustrated. A lot of them are frustrated with the treatment that a lot of black women get from black men and how they've been treated, as well as other black women in the community have been treated. So they're just very frustrated. So they're just deciding to, and they're upset about this gender war that's going on between black men and black women. It has taken on a terrible, horrible turn, to the point to where you got black women. There are a certain percentage of black women that are making the decision to divest and just take black men out of the dating pool altogether. They're open to dating other races of men, but they're not gonna date or marry. They've eliminated black men out of their dating pool. That's divestment. A black woman that is expanding her options is a black woman that is making the decisions to include other races of men into her dating. She's still open to dating black men, but she's also open to dating other races of men as well. Which before she might have been closed, she might have been just wanting to date black men exclusively. She's starting to open up her options to the possibility of dating other races of men in addition to black men. So there's a difference. There's a difference between divestment, and I think some people think they're one and the same, and they're not. There's a difference. There's a difference between black women divesting and a difference in versus expanding options. So I just wanted to make that very clear. But there's a whole divestment community here of black women here on YouTube. And there's also black women on here that are interested. More and more black women are becoming interested in expanding their options as well. Because we all know that the marital rates for black women are only 30%. Our marital rates are only 30%. Our marital rates are extremely low. White women, I think, are whooping 63%. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think white women marital rates are like 63%. But correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that. Asian women, of course, are extremely high. Black women's, I think out of all the other races of women, black women have the lowest marital rates. It's been on a steady decline. In the 1950s, black women's marital rates were 50%, and it's been on a steady decline ever since. And there's a lot of factors involved. I went into all that in another video. Why black women are not married, I think it was. I'll link that video up to this one, but I went into all that. But to sum it up and make a long story short, we outnumber black men, for one, and there's a shortage of marriageable black men in our community. And there's this percentage of black men that date and marry out of the race, and percentage of black men that are incarcerated, percentage of black men that are gay, just to sum it up. So that all those factors also have is a factor and it's a huge factor in the reason why black women's marital rates are very low, and most black women prefer to date and marry within the race. But statistically, there's only going to be a certain percentage of black women that are going to marry. If a black woman is just looking to marry a black men, a certain percentage of black women that are just looking to marry black men, realistically, only a certain percentage, is 30% of those black women are going to marry, and that's just. It's just reality. I mean, that's just what it is. It is what it is. And so there's a large percentage of us, and I say us, and I include myself in there too, because I've never been married. There's a large percentage of black women that have never been married. And those factors are a reason. I don't buy the theory a lot of the black manosphere likes to say, well, it's because of black women's attitudes. It's because of black women's attitudes and this and that and the other. I'm going to eliminate that as a possible reason for black women not being married, because black women, we're not a monolith. We're not monolithic, and we're not all the same. And when we do, statistically, when black women do marry white men, those marriages are more successful. So I'm going to eliminate that as a possible reason why black women are not married. A lot of it has to do with the numbers. You know, a lot of it has to do with the numbers of a shortage of marriageable black men in our community. You know, and those factors that I explained earlier. A lot of it has to do with the numbers. You know, so it doesn't matter what anybody says. You know, if they're saying that, they're saying it because they're bitter, whatever the situation is, but that is not a reason why a lot of black women are single. It's a huge misconception. We're extremely stereotyped, and most of the stigmatizations and stereotypes, unfortunately, are coming from our own race of men. It is what it is. But with that being said, because of black women's marital rates being so low, and this gender war that's going on between black men and black women and all those other factors that I discussed earlier, is the reason why black women are being highly encouraged to date and marry outside the race. I would say over the past 5 years, there's been a lot of propaganda and on social media. A lot of black women in the black woman sphere. Black women are discussing it more. Black women are talking about it more. More white men are coming forth and speaking out about it and saying, yes, black women need to consider dating, marrying other races of men. So more white men are coming forth and other races of men are coming forth and saying, hey, yeah, black women, we like black women, and yeah, black women should expand their options. So black women are, I would say over the past 5 years, there's been a surge on social media of black women being highly encouraged to date and marry outside the race. But there are drawbacks to that. There are drawbacks to that because there are a percentage of, and I said in another video that black women need to vet. We cannot, and I say we, I'm including myself in that. We cannot automatically assume that a man is automatically better because of his race. We have to still date, just like if we were dealing with men within our own race, we would take the time to vet and get to know the man and all that kind of stuff. Well, we need to do that across the board with any other race of man. It doesn't matter if he's white or whatever. We need to do that across the board with all races of men. We need to vet. And racism is still at an all-time, that's another thing I want to get said. Racism is still at an all-time high. I say we're the most hated race of people in the world. Unfortunately, we've still got this black cloud over our head in the United States that racism is still at an all-time high. And a lot of people, more things that change, more things stay the same. And a lot of people's attitudes and mentalities have really not changed. And there is a percentage of white men that truly, genuinely like black women, and they want to marry black women, and yeah, and they're not racist per se. But unfortunately, there is a percentage of white men out there that are still racist. They're still racist. Excuse me. They're still racist. But those white men that are racist, there's a percentage of white men that are out there that are racist, and they will still date and even go as far as to marry a black woman. Make it make sense. They might have been raised that way. They got their parents like that. They might have been brought up like that. And these black men these white men, the racist white men, get into marriages and relationships with black women, knowing doggone well that they're a racist. And then they, in midst of arguments, and it happens to black men too. Some of these black men, white women couples, it happens to them too more often than not. But I'm not talking about them right now. Right now I'm talking about black women and white men. Some of these racist white men will get into relationships with black women and they'll still be a racist. And then during the midst of an argument, they say the N-word or whatever the situation is that. I did a video talking about Crystalline Crazelyn. Her boyfriend, or she was with at the time, said the N-word, and he said it on social media. And if I find that video, I'll link that one up too. But I said, under any circumstances, a white person is to never use that word in the presence of black people. Black people shouldn't even be using that word. It's got too much of our people's blood on it. But a white person definitely shouldn't be using it. And if a white person is in a relationship with a black person, they ain't got no business using that word. They ain't got no business using that word. And it speaks volumes about who they really are when they do say that word. That would be a deal breaker for me. If I'm in a relationship with a white man or I'm dating a white man, if that word even so much has come out of his mouth, that's a deal breaker for me. You're out of here, buddy. And you better hope that I don't get my 2 sons to double team you before you leave. I'm just joking. But I'm serious. That would be a deal breaker for me. Okay? And not only am I going to check you, but you're going to be out the door. Okay? And you better go out the door real fast. Because that is unacceptable. A white person being with a black person has no business using that word. I don't care. I don't care if it's an argument. I don't care what context that word. You don't put the A on the end either. You don't say it with the A on the end either. A white person has no business using that word. Period. In a relationship with a black person, you have no business using that word. And if they use that word in the midst of a relationship with a black woman, it speaks volumes about who he really is. And the black woman doesn't need to walk out of that relationship. She needs to run out of it. Even if it's a marriage. I'm serious. Even if it's a marriage. Because that man has no business using that word. If a white man is with a black woman and he uses that word, he's an undercover racist. And unfortunately, some white men do fetishize black women, and they get involved in relationships with black women for the wrong reasons. Just like sometimes white women get with black men for the wrong reasons. And yes, I said there's some white women that get with black men for the wrong reasons. Sometimes white people fetishize us. They look at us as a fetish. Now, don't get all bent out of shape. I'm not saying all white men that are with black women, because there are some white men that are with black women that genuinely love black women, and those marriages are statistically more successful. So I'm not saying all white men, but there are a certain percentage of white men that do fetishize black women. Okay? And those are the types of white men that a black woman has to be leery of. It's like you have to vet. You have to take the time to vet the man. You got to pray about it. Do some serious praying. You got to have some serious discernment before you get into a relationship with this white man. And it's some of the stories that these women told were terrible. This one black lady said that she had went as far as married. She married the white man, and they had a child together. And the family, his side of the family, didn't even like the child. So I mean, even if he got racist, my thought is if he got racist people in his family. My thought is if he's got racist people in his family, then that's a deal breaker. You know what I'm saying? So black women need to use discernment. Black women need to pray. There's nothing wrong with dating outside the marriage, dating outside the race. There's nothing wrong with interracial dating, but black people got to be careful in marriage. But black people need to be careful. Black women need to be careful, and black men, that you're not hooking up with white people that are racist. Because that ain't no good. And it takes using discernment. It takes prayer. All that. Beforehand, before you get involved in these relationships with white people. You know, I'm not saying all white men. I'm not saying all white women. But some of those white people are racist when they get involved with black people. And some of these stories that these sisters was telling was bad. And I think because there's so much hype. You know, black women are being really hyped up and really geeked up to hook up with white men. But that's one of the things that's not discussed. It used to be discussed a lot. But because of all the propaganda over the last few years about black women dating out of the race, more white men see how black men are treating black women and leaving us for other races of women and all this kind of stuff. And they know that more black women are thinking about expanding their options. So that's the perfect opportunity for a racist, if he fetishizes a black woman, to just step on in there and just, to hook up with a black woman. I'm telling black women, you still have to vet, just like you would a black man. I would say vet that white man even more. Because that's the last thing you want to do is hook up with a racist. You get into a marriage, you go as far as to marry this guy, you find out he's a racist. That's crazy. You know what I mean? And so you have to pray. And I know sometimes people do change. I know people put on a big facade until way later on down the relationship, and then they change. I get that. But if the man, first of all, if the man's family is racist, that's a red flag right there. If his family is not accepting of you and they're straight up racist. I had a white friend once that her grandmother was a racist. And she was low-key racist too. Because of some stuff that she said to me she'd had no business saying to me. You know what I mean? So you just have to be careful. You have to vet black women. You have to really vet these men. Really vet these white men. Check out their family. Because if their parents, especially if it's immediate as their parents, if their parents are racist, okay, well, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. And so it doesn't matter if he's a Christian or whatever, because sometimes the Christians can be worse than the men in the world. So black women have to take the time to vet, because there are a certain percentage of white men that still fetishize black women, and they are racist, but they're still willing to get into relationships with black women, knowing that they low-key racist. And it's not acceptable if he loves black women, but he hates black men. If he hates black men, if it wasn't for a black man, you wouldn't be here. Okay? So a part of you is a black man. So that's not okay. If he hates black men, I don't care what's going on between black men and black women. If the man hates black men, then you should not be hooking up with him. Same goes for a white woman with a black man. If she hates black women, then, but it's too many black men that accepts that. But that's a whole nother video. But if he hates black men, you don't need to be with him. Because he low-key racist. He low-key racist. So hit me up in that comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. But sisters, you gotta vet, and you gotta be careful that you're not hooking up. It's okay to expand your options. That's okay. But just make sure you use discernment and you pray and you vet. And making sure that you're not hooking up with a racist, a white supremacist. That's the worst thing you can do. Okay, hit me up in that comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. Hit that like, subscribe, and share, and notification bell. Until the next video, be blessed.